The agency's finance board approved a $113 million premium and cost increase for state employees and their families. That means anyone from teachers to librarians to highway workers will pay more out of pocket every time they go to the doctor. According to a study done by Yale University, these tariffs could cost the average American household nearly $3,800 a year. That's almost 5% of the median household income. Today in West Virginia, parents can file for medical exemptions to the state's vaccine requirements for their children. But Senate Bill 460, which was approved by the chamber last month, would change that. I'm James Dailey, and I'll tell you about how recent tariffs are impacting the local economy right here in Morgantown. Our Emmy Award-winning WVU News starts now. And one local teacher says an increase in healthcare cost is essentially a pay cut that could force more teachers like her out of the state. Every state allows medical exemptions, but West Virginia is currently only one of 5 states that doesn't allow religious or philosophical exemption to its vaccine requirements. I'm James Dailey, and I'll take you to the State House where lawmakers and the governor are at odds over a budget deficit. Our Emmy Award-winning WVU News starts now. The Trump administration says they're implementing tariffs to boost manufacturing inside the U.S. But so far, it's led to layoffs in dozens of companies, even some right here in West Virginia. Under Republican leadership, state lawmakers have tried to agree on a budget during their 60-day legislative session. But a balanced budget must be passed and signed by the governor by June 30th. WVU News, I'm James Dailey, and I'll tell you about how new tariffs will have an impact on factories and companies all across the U.S. I'm James Dailey, and I'll tell you about the change in vaccine requirements lawmakers are looking to make. Our Emmy Award-winning WVU News starts now. The West Virginia legislature is under pressure to address rising health care costs for public employees in the state. 200,000 West Virginians rely on the Public Employees Insurance Agency, or PEIA, to provide them health care coverage, including high school teachers like Carrie Ross from Spring Mills High School in Falling Waters.
I went and checked in the last 4 years, my insurance has went up over $200. So obviously $200 is a huge impact on any family.
Premiums for state employees will increase by 14% this year. It was in January when Governor Patrick Morrisey stood here and told lawmakers his budget included an additional $45 million for PEIA. But some members of the legislature say that's not enough.
With our budget, to get down into some detail, PEIA money has to be funded in every line item of the budget because there's employees everywhere.
A bill proposed by House Republicans would privatize PEIA in order to save cost. But Democrats are skeptical.
And so if we abolish PEIA, we are going to have increased costs for our teachers. We're going to have less teachers who want to teach as a result of that, and our kids will get lesser education.
Ross lives in West Virginia's Eastern Panhandle, which competes with Maryland and Virginia to keep teachers. She says many of her colleagues have left due to the lack of benefits the state provides.
Since they promise the benefits to the teachers, not just teachers, but all public employees, I think that that's a promise that they should keep.
Without any additional funding from the legislature, PEIA cost will go up starting in July. Last month, 2 major employers in north central West Virginia announced layoffs: the Novelis aluminum plant in Fairmont and the National Institute for Occupational Safety and Health in Morgantown. State lawmakers say federal changes are part of the reason.
So in 2 days, they announced 400 jobs were being lost in north central West Virginia. And that's all based on federal policies, Trump tariffs, DOGE cuts, and things that are going to really affect the state of West Virginia.
For local officials like Tom Bloom, the federal cuts are causing a chain reaction in the local economy.
And the concern is it's this instability, and people don't like that because they don't want to invest. And that's the biggest problem that's happening in Montague County.
Bloom says in 2024, Mon County's tax income dropped by more than $2.5 million from business closures. New layoffs due to federal cuts and tariffs this year, Bloom says, will lead to fewer businesses operating in the county, and in turn, less income to provide for critical services like law enforcement and senior centers.
What business is going to come downtown and take the risk factor if they don't know their supply chain?
Layoffs also mean fewer customers for these local businesses. And tariffs mean the customers who are left will pay higher prices. According to a study done by Yale University, these tariffs could cost the average American household nearly $3,800 a year. That's almost 5% of the median household income. President Trump says his tariffs will help boost production in the U.S. and create more high-paying manufacturing jobs. Dr. Shuichiro Nishikawa specializes in international trade and economic development at WVU and says it's not that simple.
It's goods we imported from China and Vietnam, for example. They are very labor-intensive goods, and it's really hard to produce these goods inside of the United States.
For Bloom, it's the uncertainty that is making his job harder.
And that's the biggest problem. We don't know.
12 businesses closed in Morgantown in January, and Bloom worries more are coming. Senate Bill 460 would allow for religious and philosophical exemptions to the state school vaccination requirements. Supporters of this bill believe that parents should be able to make their own decisions about their kids' vaccination status.
I think it's very important that people have informed consent and that they are agreeing to having that happen and it not be forced on them.
Opponents of the bill say vaccine requirements help protect communities' health, and West Virginia is leading the country because of its mandates for school-aged kids.
These are immunizations that we've had for years and years, and in fact, things like polio, we have eradicated that. And so this could lead to a situation that could really harm our public health.
Every state allows medical exemptions, but West Virginia is currently only one of 5 states that doesn't allow religious or philosophical exemption to its vaccine requirements. Dr. Jeremy LaRue is an infectious disease specialist with Mon Health Medical Clinic in Morgantown. LaRue believes that this type of legislation could lead to an increase in diseases.
So I think if we ever went toward a model where people were choosing whether they were going to vaccinate or unvaccinate their children, we would see significant increase in disease.
States with loose vaccine requirements have experienced a recent outbreak in measles, and an unvaccinated child in Texas died this month from the disease. LaRue says these deaths can be prevented.
While it's true that an isolated case of measles, for example, is not uncommon, what is uncommon is to have multiple cases in a close proximity. And that just goes to show when there is no immunity in that community, how quickly it will and can and will spread.
If the bill is passed, it is expected that Governor Morrisey will sign it into law. OpenPayroll.com says West Virginia workers are paid nearly 30% less than the average government worker in other states. Tariffs are essentially taxes on foreign goods imported into the U.S., but that cost is usually passed on to the consumer, sending prices up. These tariffs could raise the price of goods for the average American on anything from new vehicles to computers, and are expected to cost each U.S. household an additional $830 in taxes this year. Thanks, Jackie. Patrick, previous Governor Jim Justice says he left the state's budget in a, quote, tremendous position, end quote, but the new administration disagrees. Last year, West Virginia counties struggled to fill about 1,500 teaching positions with certified instructors. Pay is likely a reason, as West Virginia ranks last in the country for average teacher salary. More than 3/4 of those cases are in people under the age of 19. And almost none of them were vaccinated. But state lawmakers disagree. They say Morrisey has a difference of opinion when it comes to what state dollars should be spent on. Local economic experts say they could also directly impact the state of West Virginia's bottom line. Experts say businesses who import goods from China will likely have to increase their prices to cover that cost, while they figure out if they can produce the same products in the U.S.